welcome everybody to this presentation. Thank you for paying attention and being invited to present this subject. It actually didn't rise with Corona, or it has been existing at the Faculty of Architecture, CTU, for 10 years maybe. It started with like coming Erasmus students to Prague, and me teaching them graphic design, visual design. There was a point in the multilingual actually attendees in my class, and also it was no point in like each of them had a different level of expertise in these subjects, and we had to combine them together. So the main point was to teach them Illustrator, InDesign, and Photoshop program in order to be able to present themselves. It is very important in architecture to know some programs in order to make presentations, posters, to say something about your design, maybe in a little more funny way, not so serious. So I got a bunch of students. Now there will be, again, external students from many countries, and they should form groups independently. And now that we are in online age, they can form groups partly in Prague, partly in Munich and other states that we are cooperating with. And in these groups, they start working on a story. And this story was actually based on the city they were staying in. So here we were in Prague, but if we are cooperating in Munich, the same thing can be happening in Munich. And the point was to get to know the city, because it was architecture studies. It was important to get to know the architecture of the city they were staying in, and their work had to be something like a sci-fi, non-real, unreal story that they have to make up and put in a comic storybook. And in the end, all these groups, each group finalized one story, and they were put into one book. The end picture, which you can see there, each student was able to gather all stories from all groups and finalize his own book with his own cover and take part on on-site workshop where they were sewing the book together. So they, from the virtual drawing, photographing, having like online presentations, they ended up with a real book holding in their hands. So there were some phases of Photoshop where they learned some funny things about it. First of all, they tried to, for example, for the first meeting, they should exchange faces and combine them together. So new creatures came up from this. They were sharing all of this on Facebook. We took the advantage of using Facebook not only for just losing time in the evenings like Facebook, but for sharing images, because everyone has the account, and also they can share it outside of the course. Sometimes we also, in the partly like part tasks in the beginning of the subject, the students should develop something that again crosses the border between the virtual and the practical practical world. So they should design something and produce it. It again depends on what they kind of had to. For example, this was a clock, a wall clock made of old LP desk. So first there was this Illustrator design without any thickness of the path. And in the end, they had to somehow get to know what are the limits of the technology they are using for producing the real output. Also, in all of these programs, not many people know it, but there is some computing and automation could be used. And sometimes it's quite handy. For example, in Illustrator, we use the automation for designing some regularity or irregularity. We can still even almost program it. So this was one inspiration that was part of the output from the semester, a comic where students should make their own photos. They were prohibited to download anything from the internet. They had to make the photos themselves. And the second rule was they should sketch an additional design to the photo. So the outcome was actually very original book, which was even, I think it's published. The library has few pieces. It has ISBN. So it was a book about the city, about their stay in the city, and the topic we gave them. So last year it was, for example, the garbage that is coming out of Corona crisis. They were making some story about it. In the end, here you can see it was a bunch of stories, each different graphic style. So that was really depending on on each group and their capability of drawing what they learned in each of the phases of the course. I think the point is it came into online because the courses of these graphic design programs could be online. There is no constraint, but the students as well, they were like asked to cooperate to find themselves like teammates. It is maybe a little bit harder to do it virtually, and it would have to be done like with the force somehow. Here you can see in the end of the course, all the stories were printed down. It was usually 20 pages. So in the beginning, students were, oh my God, it's so long, I cannot do it. And in the end, only 20 pages. We cannot can we prolong it a little bit? Because when they started developing the story, they not only used everything they learned in the course, but they also wanted to do more, make more. They had many experience in their stay abroad, etc. Here is the book, how it could look like. It was quite thick book. So in the end, the Erasmus students had kind of a memory book of their stay in Prague. And as for we transmitted a little bit into online, the outcome doesn't have to only be a book, but also like a video.